Ladies and gentlemen, very excited for the next panel, actually. What we're going to be talking about is the agenda setting for 2030. This is going to be a very, very interesting panel, so I'm very excited to ask some of our industry leaders up onto the stage. So please give them a very warm welcome as I call them up to the stage. First of all, our Chief Executive and Founder of Gates Hospitality, Mr. Naeem Madad. Founder and CEO of Izil Beauty, Muna Abbasi. CEO of Grandiose Supermarket, Mr. James Scott. COO of Jackie's Retail, Ashish Punjabi. The VP of Retail for Adyen, Yusuf Al-Mawi. Co-founder and CTO of Jiffy Software, Igor Demijev. The Principal for Retail and Commerce for EMEA for MasterCard, Alpay Akdemir. And finally, once they're all up on stage, the moderator for this panel, please give a very warm welcome to our partner, Digital Strategy, KPMG Lower Gulf, Mr. Mohammed Majid.
Hi, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Hello, everyone, please. Oh, good. A lot of light. Hi, everyone. Good morning. For today's session, the title is The Alchemy of Growth for Retail in the Middle East. I could not agree more with today's theme. Alchemists were those who dare to turn sand and metals into gold. Retailers in the Middle East have reinvented their retail history into a golden service offering. Years back, we simply did not exist in the field of retail. The retail industry was fragmented and mainly dominated by European, Western Europe markets, and maybe Japan on electronics. Today, we moved from not being recognized within the industry to become a top performer. The world's shopping paradise. That's how people view Middle East today. I personally have family in 6 different continents, and they still choose to fly to the Middle East to get the satisfying shopping experience that they aspire. So we should all pause and appreciate what we have achieved in the retail sector in the Middle East during the last 20 years. But at the same time, it's incredible to see the ambition that you can feel in this room, that you can feel in our markets, to disrupt the sector and set new standards. Today we have an incredible panel with whom we will speak about opportunities in the retail sector, what future looks like, and what capabilities they're looking to establish in their organizations. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. My first question will be for Muna and for Naeem. Oh gosh, you are in order. That's so the first question is, what are the favorable and emerging trends in the Middle East that retailers can take advantage?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to be here among the panelists. I've been living in the UAE for the past 16, 17 years, and I could see definitely how the retail has grown from 1 or 2 major shopping malls to today having diverse shopping malls catering to the larger communities and to the smaller communities. So I think in terms of the many things that are favorable, at least here in the region, you have the infrastructure, which the countries invest on. So, and I would be very specific to where we are today in the Middle East, with the weather, with everything. So you have the infrastructure that encourage the people to go to the retail and shop with their families. The stability, the economic stability around helps a lot as well in that matter. The technology and the speed to the markets, the speed to the internet, that helps a lot. Everything is digitalized from as well anything to do with the transactions or the government transaction or the licenses. That as well is very much favorable, especially for smaller groups that are, or startups that are being or getting established in the retail industry. And I think as well is the economic stability, which I said earlier, which is very important in the region. So that's from my point of view.
Thank you.
Mike's. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to see everyone in the room today. And I think before I address the question, I think what's very important to speak about is the history and the journey that we've come along over the last 30 years. And the UAE has been known for a trading hub from day one. So retail is really a part of the rich tapestry that we do. It's not new to the region. It's how the region's been put on the map, admittedly. So it's really deep rooted, and I think we're all very familiar with the way it works. What's very important for us now, and what's very important for the way forward is, I think Philip's presentation was very aptly, it's all about how do we engage with the now and with the future. And I think moving forward, we need to be putting different hats on. We need to understand who the demographics are, what are the global trends, and we need to make sure, how do we make sure they get engaged? Because life has changed, life is changing. We're fueling all that change, by the way. It's not happening on its own, we're driving that change. But very important, I think, for us to embrace technology, make sure our brands remain relevant to what the brands are, but also understand what are the audience looking for, who are the demographics, and how do we make sure we continue on reaching out to them and staying relevant to a brand, relevant to the audience. We've heard all about Web3, Metaverse. These are at an infancy level, and I think we have a massive obligation and interest, as a matter of fact, in order to embark on these and make them part of our business models to make sure that we are part of the future. And without damaging our brands, of course. A lot of businesses can embrace those very rapidly, but a lot need time and mechanics in place and structure in place. There is no manual on the shelf that we can all run to and say, how do we implement this? We're crafting the manual as we go along, and I think it's very exciting times for the region. Retail itself is all about lifestyle. It's not about shopping. It actually includes, the umbrella of retail includes a lot of aspects of lifestyle, and that's what the region's known for, lifestyle. I think people are migrating here for the lifestyle and the benefits that come with lifestyle, and retail is at the heart of all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Naeem and Muna. So the second question we have would be for James and Ashish. Would be, what are the major factors driving the growth of the retail economy in the Middle East? And what should retailers be doing to stay ahead of the curve in the next decade? James, you want to go first?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I think the first presentation that we've seen today highlights all of the factors as to what's happening in the region. We're seeing significant growth in retail sales. We're seeing significant growth economically. We're seeing increased liquidity in the marketplace. And I'm relatively new to the UAE. I'm here less than a year. And what amazed me, I've been in and out of the region for quite some time, for nearly 20 years. But when you're on the ground here, what you see is the dynamism, you see infrastructure growth, you see new enclaves and new residential growing. And I'm European, I'm British. And if you look at what's happening in the European economy, in the US, even to a degree in Asia, you've got the post-COVID effect, and you feel a little bit like you're in the world of the pessimist. And the way I see things here in the GCC is it's a little bit like the world of the optimist. We've got huge developments happening in Saudi. We've got huge developments happening within the UAE region. We've got huge developments with sporting events, increase in tourism. It's an absolutely dynamic environment in which we're living in. And I think, the next 5-10 years is a massive opportunity for the region to continue on that growth curve and to reinvent the region as a consumption economy, as a destination for investment, a destination for tourism. And as retailers, we drive that, whether it's food retail or non-food retail. It's a consumption economy. We are going to need to innovate and to stay at the forefront of the retail evolution, which is online an experience. And I think we're all very lucky to be in that environment today with the growth that we're seeing, which is very different to the rest of the world.
Thank you.
Yep. Good morning good morning and happy November to all of you. I would agree with a lot of what James said, and I think the bigger challenge right now is not to fall into the vortex of what we see in the media internationally. There is a lot of talk about recession, there's a lot of talk about tech layoffs, there's a lot of talk about what's happening in the West. And I was in New York last week, and they know they've been on an easy ride for many years over there. They were expecting a lot of what's happening in the tech sector to happen. They said the tech sector grew for 20 years. That was the backbone of what was happening. But when COVID came in, they got a little over-optimistic. They started hiring a lot more than they thought that would be, because they thought we wouldn't be going out in shopping malls anymore. We'd be doing everything online. We'd be doing everything in the metaverse. And what happened? As soon as COVID finished, everyone was out traveling, everyone was out in retail, everyone was out eating. And that expectation didn't quite work the way the tech sector expected at that stage. So I think where they're seeing growth in the US right now, they said was in the boring areas of employment. In F&B, in retail, in services, in last mile delivery. That's where the growth is. And I think we've been aware of a lot of that in this region and have been actually looking at that. And the focus has always been in terms of keeping business running over here. We've recognized that we're going to have a lot of tourists coming in. And one thing that comes in when you talk to people who visit the region, and I think we need to take that into perspective, is how much we've actually progressed over here. It used to be said this was in the service economy, you didn't have the quality of service. You talk to people who travel in from any part of the world, whether from the Far East or from Europe or the US, and they talk about the retail experience over here and how much better it is, and how customer service is so great. So I think we've all done a great job as retailers in terms of upping our game, and I think we need to continue doing that. And the presentation from Alpine Capital highlighted a lot of that in terms of what's going to work for us. Higher oil prices work for this region. It works for Saudi Arabia, it works for the UAE, and it makes sure that there is more investment in spending over here. And I think we just need to stay away from the vortex of the international media and the negativity that they create, and look at the opportunities in front of us. We're going to have somewhere in 2023, most likely, the travel of the Chinese, or the re-emergence of the Chinese traveler again. The Chinese haven't traveled for 4 years now. They were the biggest spenders in luxury. They were the biggest spenders when it came to international tourism pre-COVID. We've seen the sort of revenge travel that's happened in the last 1.5, 2 years with the rest of the world. We haven't seen the Chinese travel yet. And imagine when they start to come here. Dubai Mall is full at the moment in the luxury wing because they don't have enough stock of whatever is there. Imagine once a Chinese shopper is there again. So I think there is a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of opportunities. And I think we just need to continue doing what we do, but do it even better.
Thank you, James and Ashish. Then it definitely feels like a lucky environment, a blessed environment, but also because of the efforts that was put by the private sector and the public sector in the Middle East to prepare for this aftermath of COVID. And it's great to see us now having these benefits. My next question will be for you all. It's a bit of a brainstorming that I would like for us to promote. Is how do you see the future of retail in the Middle East? What will be the ecosystem that we can expect by 2030? I'll start with Igor, but I would ask for you, each of you, to provide a particular perspective, also considering your specialization area.
Yeah, hello everyone. So, like from my perspective, as a founder of the company who is doing tech for the retail, I think for the worldwide trends which also apply to the Gulf region, and I think especially considering what the guys said previously about like the optimistic approach and a lot of investments into the retail here. I think there are two major points which will be drivers for this growth. So the first one is the customer expectations, which are going higher and higher with all like modern deliveries. For example, like we have Talabat or Karim, who are doing on-demand delivery, and I believe by 2030 it will be like industry standard. So it's the thing you not only want to be online, but you need to provide like better service, like fast delivery or very predictable delivery. If you say you will deliver something into the specific slot, you must fulfill this promise. And the opposite side of it is the efficiency of the operations while you do this operational excellence for your customers. So I think we will see like by next 10 years, we will see the automated delivery, for example, to reduce the costs for this sector, because in our experience it is not very hard, even like without robotization, to actually pick the order for online retail, but it is more costly to deliver because you have some traffic and you have like some smart things to do, like to batch the orders properly. So I believe the automatization and robotization for these things will be the thing in like long term. Yeah, thank you.
Hello. Of course, the question is about 2030, of course, 7 years from now, so we might not know. I just want to relate to what the previous conversation that, I think Philip was talking about, that NFT defining, the tokenization of the digital assets. I believe from retail perspective, we're going to be seeing soon, probably earlier than 2030, that tokenization of the physical assets, physical goods, non-food retail items that we go and shop, especially knowing that this applies to mainly luxury retail, and knowing the luxury retail's importance for the Middle East region. So what we are seeing trends like some of the football clubs in the United Kingdom tokenizing the tickets so that they can manage the second-hand market of the ticket sales to kind of decrease the black market. So we're expecting to see, and at least I'm expecting to see, that tokenization of those physical luxury retail items so that the one owner can identify him or herself as the owner of that specific shoes, bags, and whatever that luxury item, and then that he or she can resell that. Also the buyer would know that, okay, he is the actual owner of that specific goods. I think we're going to be seeing this much earlier than 2030. This is one of the things. The other things that I'm expecting to see is that the trend that we've been seeing for the grocery is that we are seeing self-service checkouts, right, in the grocery, the high frequency items. We are expecting to see the same trend in the other non-food retail, areas. We already start seeing some of the aspects, right? Like if we can go to the Dubai Mall, we can go to 6th Street, and you're seeing screens that customers can go and check. We are expecting to see this much more often. This is not to make those stores to humanless. There's that aspect, but at the same time, along with that, to enabling customers to be able to see what product is available at what location, and for customers to be able to choose where he or she would like this order to be placed, the availability, and to the extent that he or they can even customize their request around these orders. So we are seeing that, again, this all goes along with the enabling and enhancing the customer experience, but in the age of the internet and the data, I'm expecting to see that this kind of trends to pop up more.
Thank you. Yusuf?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the future of retail will definitely be dictated by the shoppers, as you mentioned, right? I think if I reference the ADIAN 2022 retail report that we conducted in partnership with KPMG earlier this year, 66% of retail merchants invested heavily in digitizing their systems, whether it's back end or front end, whether it was for online or in store. And then we also surveyed the same merchants, and they basically said that 99% of them would actually invest heavily in 2023 when it comes to technology. So going back to your question about the future of retail, 7 years from today. Well, first of all, I think before we get into the fancy world of metaverse and NFTs and all of that, I think there's something that's a lot more essential and at the core of retail. It's actually looking at our systems, right? So if you look at it from a tech perspective, looking at whatever in-store POS solutions that you guys are operating or your e-commerce platforms. Retailers are moving away from customized in-house built solutions, and they're actually really targeting or moving towards cloud-based systems or SaaS-based systems, right? Any one of these systems that's built for a merchant will allow all merchants to actually benefit from that, right? With firmware updates, with the latest integrations, so on and so forth. So I think that there's 3 main pillars that we need to work towards in order to get to the future faster, the future of retail faster. The first one being creating those flexible shopper experiences. The second one being creating deeper engagements with our shoppers, whether it's online or offline. And last but not least is being able to create those or give access to retailers that rich data, the rich data insights with all the different touch points that you guys can experience across channels, right? So that's kind of moving away from the concept of omni-channel, which everyone is. I personally believe that word is being misused a lot these days, because omni-channel is one thing, being able to sell on multiple channels, whether it's in-store, on your website, in a mobile app, over social media, over the telephone. There's so many different ways to sell. But moving away from omni-channel and towards unified commerce is really where retailers need to move. And we see this from the likes of Apparel Group, for example, from the likes of GMG, Shalhoub, Al-Shaya, that are really heading in that direction. And so I'll give the example of sixthstreet.com we mentioned in the Dubai Hills Mall recently. I think it's the first phygital store that we've seen in the region, and really being able to kind of move away from that checkout counter or that till, creating an in-store mobile experience for the shopper. Regardless of where the shopper is standing or sitting in the store, they want to be able to check out seamlessly, not queue up, not having to walk away because of the long queues in store at peak hours, especially on the weekends. And so I think that's the future. And one last thing, there's so many different shopper journeys that you can create for the shopper, such as buy online, return in store, click and collect, going towards an endless aisle concept where the shopper's in store. You're not carrying all of the stock that you guys have in your warehouses because the store doesn't have enough space, but the shopper can basically browse your entire warehouse from an iPad or a kiosk in store, which allows the staff to then ship it same day or next day or 2 days later. So I think the flexibility that we need to get to, if we don't have connected systems, we're not going to get there.
Thank you, Yusuf, and especially on the unified commerce perspective. Muna, tell us about the future. What do you expect?
So I do agree very much with what you said. I think before we move to the metaverse, at least from our side, and talking about the next 7 days, there is already so many things to be done to make that omni-channel happen, or that one the one journey happen. So today, brick and mortar will still be there because there are especially different based on different categories. There are still different reasons why we want to go out and have that kind of physical experience in store or in the mall, or so there is that kind of experience which is still there. However, there is as well the e-commerce customer experience that needs to go and we need to learn from and implement on the physical stores. So I think it's the main thing is the what I would like to call, at least for us, is the phygital. So basically, when we are going to a store, you are having that kind of experience from the environment, from the smell, from the fragrance, from the customer experience, the feel, the look. There are things that you still want to touch, but as well, as a consumer or as a retailers, there is a need to upgrade that kind of customer journey or the customer experience, the seamless customer experience, which is online, and delivering it on in store, and vice versa. So when we're talking about the e-commerce today, yes, there is that kind of experience which is missing today. And that's where as well some of the good customer experience journeys that we get on physical store is being brought up to the e-commerce world, like for example, skincare diagnosis or talking to a skin expert or a makeup, or you have those kind of AI. Maybe in few years I would like to take just a picture and then basically I would have my size already detected from that picture to get me my size without having to go and read what is the UK size versus US size inches and taking my measurements, for example, online. So there are still a lot of things to be developed to unify that kind of experience where the consumer, whether it be in store, in a mall, in online, it becomes a very seamless experience. And that's where the systems as well come in. So the system have to support. So when we are talking about retailers, there is a huge infrastructure that needs to be developed to support this kind of omni-channel, seamless experience, unified experience from the back end, from the CRM, from the data that you're getting, to make sure that your systems read the customer journey anyhow. So someone, especially when we are in the region, we get a lot of customers from different markets, right? And we're lucky to have that. And how can we track those people? So we know the journey of that customer, that once he was in Dubai Mall, then he went to Mall of the Emirates, then another day, actually he lives in Saudi, he bought online, and then you go back and one day he came. So you start reading the full customer journey and you're able to answer him like if he's not new anytime. You know, like he's not like, oh, you just came in, but there is a full history. So hence the systems that, and I mean, there are now coming up more and more to support the retailers to deliver this kind of seamless and unified customer journey.
It's also interesting how you mentioned bringing some elements of the physical experience to the digital experience and vice versa. I believe that we all could agree that each journey, physical or digital, has its own benefits, pros and cons, but you still have cons in both of them. The whole solution and potentially unified commerce would be, how do you make both of them the most similar possible and both only with pros, no cons? Naeem, give us your thoughts.
I genuinely believe the future is bright. But again, rather than simply focusing on AI, I think what we should be really also keeping in mind and enforcing in our businesses is EI, emotional intelligence. At the end of the day, we're dealing with humans, whether they are online or in store or physically in venues and so forth. My own company, Gates, our 4 brand pillars are about enriching, engaging, innovation, and belonging. And if you take these 4 brand pillars, it's all about the human capital and how do we make sure that we maintain ourselves engaged, because I believe if we are engaged with the consumers, whatever silos we are in the business, business will come. And if we service those individuals, business will keep coming back, which is very important for us. Equally as important, I think the whole enrichment part is part of the future. I think people are now asking questions about sustainability, provenance, traceability, and so forth. And I think as retailers, no matter what silos we're in, we have that obligation to make sure that we bring this into the equation of service delivery. making sure that we have that educational aspect of helping our audience, educating the public on our products, our services, our consumers, and so forth. And last but not least, making sure that we have a benchmark that is setting the trend globally, which I genuinely believe we're on the right track. And I also believe that moving forward, retail is not only about shopping or spending time in a online and or in a shopping center arcade. It's more about lifestyle, which I've alluded to earlier. How do we encapsulate all of these experiences? How do we give people theatrical engagements and make sure their journeys and their acquisitional platforms are very much engagement, and where people feel they belong to a certain brand and feel they can come back to a certain brand. So belong, enrich, engage, innovate for me are the parameters of retail of the future and how we dictate moving forward our businesses.
Thank you, Naeem. James?
I'm a very simple retailer. I'm in the food business, and everybody has to consume food. And if we look pre-COVID, I'd segment the market in three very simple terms. We had the online business, single digit. We had the premium business, maybe just double digit. And then we had the mainstream retail business, which was by far the dominant place. Now, my view looking at the UAE and the GCC market is a lot of retailers are providing a functional experience. Basically, the customer goes to shop, and it's not necessarily a pleasant experience, it's more a functional experience rather than an emotional experience. And with the growth of online and the demand placed in this market by the customer, they want product quickly, they want product efficiently, and they want the experience online to be quick and effective, whether that's payment, whether that's delivery, or whether that's the whole order process. So if I picture 2030 in my mind, and coming from a grandiose supermarket perspective, we expect that online will significantly grow and maybe even outperform the forecasts that we're seeing, because the online experience can replicate the functional experience of shopping in a big box mainstream player. And price can be delivered through that experience, but there's a huge opportunity in experiential retailing. So as a food retailer, we believe it's more about creating an experience in the store. It's about being closer to customer. It's about understanding the customer better and making the journey more enjoyable, making the journey more than just completing a shopping destination for food products, but also maybe consuming a coffee, a snack, some lunch, browsing, buying fresh product, buying interesting product, buying innovative and new diversified product, buying sustainable product, and giving the customer an experience which is pleasurable. So the way we look at retail between now and 2030, online will significantly grow, and that's all about speed, it's about functionality, it's about being close to customer, it's about delivering a very efficient shopping experience with availability and a good price. You'll have the mainstream, which will shrink dramatically because customers just don't enjoy spending their time in a big box outlet when they can replicate the experience online with the click of a button. But for me and what we see, it's all about creating experience, it's about understanding customer, it's about creating an environment which is fun for the family, it's about creating an environment which you feel there's a degree of belonging, you feel that you're valued as a customer. And this for me is the critical thing that we'll see change between now and 2030. I think customers will be more demanding, they'll want a more enjoyable experience, and it'll become something that's something for the family, and it's something that you actually enjoy rather than something that you endure.
Thank you. Ashish, beside the future of retail, I want to ask you also to add one more element. You mentioned something very interesting before about the Chinese tourists, right? That we didn't see them coming back. How do you see also the consumer mix, the tourist mix happening in 2030 in the Middle East? What are the changes that we can expect?
Sure, thank you for adding that, because after 6 opinions, a 7th opinion was a lot more difficult to do. So retail has been about one thing, and retail has been about being where the customer is And I think we've heard already a lot of things about where the customer is now, where the customer is going to be going in the future with Philip's presentation earlier today. And we just need to make sure by 2030 we are where the customer is. Now, the one advantage we've got over here, again, is where we sit in the Middle East and in Dubai and in the UAE, is we're sort of in the center of the world in many ways. And we've got access to brands from all over the world, which are easy to bring in over here, and we've got access to consumers from all over the world who are able to come in over here. If anything, we saw Emirates Airlines wasn't just the UAE's airline, it was the world's airline during COVID, because it was the only airline that was flying. Most national carriers around the world had stopped, and Emirates just continued moving around. And we've got the infrastructure over here to sort of benefit from anything that happens. So we've got a World Cup happening in Qatar. But when you talk to people in Qatar, they say our schools are shut for 2 months. People can't go to work full days. They've been asked to work half a day or work every alternate day. That's a city hosting a World Cup. When I spoke to a major retailer over there, they said, we don't know whether we're going to grow during the World Cup in Qatar, because who's going to be out if they can't go out? Look at the UAE, we're an hour away. We're probably going to have most of the fans of the World Cup staying over here, who can fly in and fly out. And what was the additional investment that the country did? It's the same planes, it's the same hotels, it's the same shopping malls, it's the same restaurants. So we get the benefit on the non-match days, and we get the benefit on the match day when they fly out and they come back here again. I think this is actually what this region has been built on, is capitalizing on those opportunities and those investments that have been put in there, because there's been a long-term investment that has gone in there. And anything that sort of happens, we're, I think, well positioned. So if we get the Chinese consumer in, yes, we're going to be able to get them in because we've got the flight connectivity, but also with the current political climate, I don't know how much the Chinese are going to be accepted in many other parts of the world. But they've been accepted over here. They've been welcomed over here. So I think when we look at that, I think these factors play a big part. Another point I was going to talk about by 2030 is this whole question about data as well. Now, what is the right way in terms of what data can be used as retailers, and what does the consumer want us to use? We've got access to a lot of data that we could be getting. And you've got the European GDPR model, which is fairly strict, fairly stringent, and you've got the Chinese model, which says, we own everything and we know everything about you, we've got the right to do that. And somewhere in between, we're going to have to try and figure out between now and 2030 what we think is the right version in this region that's acceptable to the retailer and the consumer, and what we can do to enhance that experience, because there has to be a middle ground somewhere if we want to make sure that retail actually evolves in the way that it should be.
Thank you. Next question now for Igor and for Yusuf. We spoke about the future state, but in your perspective, how equipped is the current retail ecosystem to adopt this future state that we've been discussing, and what are the key challenges that you envision?
Yeah, okay, so I liked the concept of the unification, which we talked about today. And I think that the unification, from my perspective, means that there will be like a lot of channels and platforms, but the experience will be the same. Like the high level of experience will be in these platforms. So we've did a lot of discussions with various retailers in Saudi, in Qatar, and here in UAE, and we can see that actually the problems are pretty the same. The retailers have maybe some legacy systems which is difficult to build, so you can create this unified experience. As a simple example, for some of retailers, they use their own online sales, and they use marketplaces to sell online. and they have literally like several systems to pick up the orders, and they can't actually track the online stocks, so they may oversell the items or undersell, and it like causes either the bad experience for the users. Like for example, you can get, I don't know, like only 70% of your order. It's insane. Like if you want to cook something and you just don't have the ingredients, it's not a very pleasant experience at all. And the operationally wise, it's also not very good when you like spend a lot of money on the personnel which does the job ineffectively. So basically, we were a bit shocked because like we solved these issues for our own retail business in London, and for example, just for some things we did, we've reached from 4 to 7 seconds for the picking of each item in the order. So we have like compared this to the competitors, and basically for the one dark store for about 3,000 SKUs, we've had when we had 600 orders per day, we had only 4 pickers per store, and even some of them were not picking, they were like doing some inventory stuff and so on. And some of our competitors with the same amount of orders with the same location, they had like 15 people. So it's like very huge difference for the costs. And like the same applies for every systems, because they the different systems should be connected to each other, like your application, your marketplace connector, your software for warehouse management. It should be all connected to provide this unified experience. And I believe this is the main challenge for the current retailers to work on. And for them who will succeed like in the coming like 1 or 2 years, they will have a great advantage upon those who will struggle to build this like in more long term.
Thank you. Yusuf?
Yeah, so we spoke about the future, and I think the question now is about the current state and what are the challenges. I think the current state is quite unique. Obviously, we all saw this transformation over the pandemic when so many of the retailers in the region didn't even have a presence online, and so overnight they had to kind of, connect with Shopify and put their websites online. And I even know, for instance, a group based in Qatar, MENA, that have the Go Sport. They basically put their website on in a 7-day period. Took them 7 days to build their website on Shopify. So there was a lot of pressure on so many different retailers here in the region. I think, yeah, so over the years, or the history of retail in the Middle East, or in the UAE in specific, is that, it was driven by tourism. Tourists would come to Mall of the Emirates, Dubai Mall. They would want that physical experience. So I think I go back to my point initially, where if you do not give shoppers the choice to shop wherever they may be, in store for that personal experience, they want to touch the clothes, they want to smell that perfume, they want to try on that makeup, they want to interact with store staff. That's the first thing. But second thing is if somebody is on the move in the metro station or waiting at a doctor for their appointment, they want to just pull out their phone and they want to order something on the spot, give them that experience as well. So I'll kind of go back to the point of channels operating in silos, right? So there's a lot of, why I say silos is because, again, it goes back to the systems that are fragmented, that are not connected to one another. If you don't have integrations in place, so for instance, if we look at an Oracle X Store, or we look at a Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and so many other systems out there, if you don't have the integrations in place to allow for that flexibility, with your OMS, with your cash register system, with your PMS, so on and so forth, you will not be able to get to that point. Now, I'll give an example from a payments perspective, since I work at Adyen, a payments technology company. I speak to retailers every single day. One of the biggest challenges I feel is that payments is looked at as a commodity, right? It's another line on the P&L rather than an actual value driver. There's a lot of legacy banks that are offering the services of merchant acquiring, and it's been working for years. If it ain't broke, don't touch it. It's working, right? Let's move forward. Let's continue. But I think when you look at retailers and the experience that they want to get to eventually, to get to that unified commerce, I think at the heart of that, it should be powered by payments as well. So again, when I look at Adyen, working with the likes of Nike, LVMH, Richemont, in the UAE, we have apparel group Joan the Juice, Al Halab, Siddiqui Holdings, so on. Yes, they can indeed make the choice to work with banks that can offer a cheaper rate, but these are companies that actually believe in the future, believe in innovation, and so paying a bit more of a premium to get access to that data, to get access to creating those shopper experiences, to be able to engage with shoppers, whether it's online or offline. There's a price to pay for that, and the experience that comes with that is basically, let's create something frictionless and seamless. If a shopper walks into a store today, takes their credit card, inserts it into a payments terminal, we have the ability to tokenize that credit card or that debit card, so that that same shopper, if they go onto an online environment of that same retailer, we recognize that shopper. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting to a place where the shopper that shops in store is also recognized online, and vice versa. So doing things such as card-linked loyalty. If you're a retailer and you have a loyalty system, don't ask the shopper anymore to open up their loyalty program. What is your loyalty number? Can we scan the barcode? That's friction. What we do is that we integrate with loyalty programs so that the second that a shopper makes a purchase, we credit the points automatically into that loyalty system, or we ask the shopper if they want to redeem certain points. That is frictionless shopping experiences. That's when the shopper will come back to you over and over and over again, and they'll choose you over those other retailers that don't have such an experience in store or online. So I think the current state of retail at the moment, as I see it, is that there's a lot of work that needs to be put into place. I think apart from all of the in-store and the online SaaS-based solutions that I mentioned, they must be integrated as well with a proper payments technology company. And so yeah, I think one more thing I want to add there is that when you look at it from a finance perspective, being able for a company such as ours to automate reconciliation reports into your ERP systems instead of doing that manual work at the end of every month, working very closely with engineering teams, with easy API documentation to be able to kind of consume properly. I think one of the biggest concerns of retailers is sitting across the table from us and saying that, oh, but it's going to cost me so much to integrate, to pay for this integration, or we don't want to pay any additional, money for whatever you're going to be offering us at the end of the month. The data is yours. We won't charge you for that. We talked about GDPR a while back and PCI DSS compliance. You shouldn't be paying for that extra. It should be coming from your payments provider. So I think, yeah, currently what I see the UAE market or the region as, we're 6 or 7 years behind where Europe or the US is at today, and we have a lot of work to do, but we'll get there.
Thank you, Iger and Yusuf. So I know that our time is ending, but I would like maybe to open for a couple questions from the audience.
I would like to ask Mr. James for the comment about the relation between the function experience or experiential functions and the emotional functions. I need to elaborate more because this is make the difference in our industry. When we talk about emotional, how are we going to measure it as a retailer? How to going to know about it? And if we're going to develop response according to this emotional, what is the response we should do? So could you give us more elaboration about this subject?
I think the important thing we've done a lot of customer research, talking to customers and trying to understand, do they enjoy the shopping experience? And what we're hearing back from customers is, I don't enjoy the shopping experience. Maybe my choice of retailer is price, is promotion, but it's not the shopping experience. So if they had an alternative which delivered on price, promotion, functionality as an alternative to their existing journey, then they'd switch. And I think we're getting to a stage, and we will get to a stage in the near term, where the online experience will deliver the same functionality, the ability to deliver, the availability, and also ultimately the price, which is the real reason to go to many retailers. So I think the measurement of whether emotion and whether that experiential benefit happens is actually when the customer switches and moves online. So the real risk for a retailer who focuses very much on function and price and promotion is that you don't really know how the customer, or when the customer is going to switch until they actually do switch. So our view as Grandiose is, we don't want to fight in that space. What we want to create is an environment in which the customer chooses to go and visit our store. So it's about basically giving them different experiences, whether that's the ability to get a great quality coffee or snack or lunch or experience, the ability to sit in store, the ability to do something with the children, the ability to basically browse the store rather than shop the store. And I think that's a big difference. If a customer is going to see new things, is going to experience a different sort of shopping experience on the ground, then you've built that emotional connection. If the customer is only going to you because your price is right or they're going to buy a promotion, it's very easy to replicate that online. A can of Coca-Cola is always a can of Coca-Cola. Yeah? So you have to build the emotional connect, you have to build the reason to shop, you have to build that pleasurable experience rather than that functional experience. And our view is that there's a real risk in that mainstream that there'll be a tipping point at which the online experience reaches a price point or a promotional point where the customer says, I'm going to switch and go online because I can get the product delivered, the price, there's no real price premium against the shopping journey, and I can use that time more effectively. So as I say, the risk is you don't know if you don't have the emotional connect until they actually leave you. And that's the risk in my mind.
Thank you, James, and thank you for the question. Any other question? So maybe as final remarks, we spoke about the trading days, how this region has been known for trading for more than 30 years, and how we've been moving from those days of trading to retail, how the ecosystem is stable, how there are multiple initiatives put in place to help us continue to grow. And we feel that we are growing, and I think that is unique right now, especially in what we see in the world. We are in that lucky environment. We spoke about the future. The future, I captured a few elements about digital transformation. It's all about how technology is enabling those physical and digital experiences. But at the same time, we spoke about data and how data is super important for us to further connect with our customers. Some challenges, most of them around technology, which is great because technology, it's easy to solve, even if it sounds complicated. And I would like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with the audience today and sharing your ideas. Thank you, everyone.